guys. I am non-physical Sean. Non-physical Sean. And what is non-physicalism? According to physicalism, mind is material or physical process, a product of brain functioning. In contrast, non-physicalism claims that mind is something different from and may exist beyond the brain. In philosophy, physicalism is the metaphysical thesis that everything is physical, that there is nothing over and above the physical, or that everything supervenes on the physical. I've got a lot of evidence for the contrary, for the non-physical. And I hope you're going to enjoy it. My first bit of evidence is Hoffman's interface theory. This one probably was my favorite because of how mind-blowing it was. And that one says, the interface theory of perception is the idea that our perceptual experiences don't necessarily map onto what exists in the reality of itself. This is in contrast to the popular view of critical realism, which argues that some of our perceptual experiences map onto the reality of the natural world. So, that one is really cool too. That one is really cool. The interface theory is really cool. And Hoffman is using some modern ways to show kind of what Immanuel Kant showed way back when he talked about transcendental idealism, and they kind of come to the same conclusion, but Kant wasn't able to show it the same way because he didn't have access to the kind of computer modeling computational power that Hoffman has. And because of that, Hoffman's able to really show, he says mathematically, he's able to mathematically show why things are non-physical. Well, more why physicalism can't work. Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. And then now, I just want to show another cool piece of evidence from Kurt Gödel, and that's Gödel's incompleteness theorem. So, Gödel's incompleteness theorem was important because it states that in any reasonable mathematical system, there will always be true statements that cannot be proved. There will always be true statements that cannot be proved. And that one is a real mind bender, and it shows that you can always that math can't prove itself. And I think that's really important because math and logic are very similar, and if math can't prove itself, then logic can't prove itself either. So there was this movement or this type of thinking called logical positivism, and logical positivism thought that you could use logic to really figure everything out. And I remember my my uncle was telling me about Hilbert, and around the 1900s, there's somewhere around the turn of the century to the 20th century, there was a lot of people talking about using math to kind of figure everything out because they thought they could. And Gödel showed that, well, you can't even figure math out ultimately, like, at least in any reasonable mathematical system. And that's really important. Because I think it lends more evidence toward nonphysicalism. And then I think I'll leave it with those for now. Just the definition. What is nonphysicalism? Well, it's saying that the mind is something different from and may exist beyond the brain. And then a couple pieces of evidence for why. And the first one is just Hoffman's interface theory, where he kind of says that what we perceive, what our five senses can perceive, is kind of like us operating within an interface similar to a computer desktop. We can click around on the desktop, we can move things, we can do stuff on the computer screen with the mouse cursor. But there's still something beneath the interface that's actually doing everything, which would be the little bits of code, the hardware, the everything. And we're not actually able to really use the interface to change that. We're not really able to use the interface to change the underlying hardware, I guess. So we're kind of just able, just like us in the real world, the quote-unquote real world, we're able to move stuff around in the world, able to manipulate objects, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's all that exists of reality itself. And then the last one was the Gödel's incompleteness theorem, and that one just talks about the limits of math, and also I'd say the limits of logic too. So that's why I'm non-physical. I'm a believer in non-physicalism. I think it's really interesting. I know there's lots more to say, and so I'm excited to share some more cool things about non-physicalism coming up. Bye-bye.